Welcome to the Roost Podcast, brought to you by Buckeye Bowhunter. And now, your host, Josh Grund.
What is going on, guys? It is Josh Grund here with Buckeye Bowhunter. Welcome back for another episode of the Rut to Roost podcast. I got John here with me, and today we're going to be talking about the roost part in the title. We're going to talk a little bit about turkey hunting, man. It's going to literally be here before you know it. There's it's just like deer hunting, but a little less stressful, I think. But I still got a laundry list of things to do. I got to, shoot my gun, which I think we were planning on maybe doing up at the land there.
Yep.
So make sure you get the shells you plan on using. We're going to talk a little bit here about just like what our plans are. Me and John have a trip planned, hopefully. That works out. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I don't know where you want to start, man. Like I'm fired up. The more I see about turkey hunting, it's like on social media, it's on Instagram, dude. I'm like, and it's been warm lately, dude. The last day of deer season I hunted, it was literally the last day in Ohio. I don't remember what it was, the 4th or something, that Sunday. And I was in the tree, dude. Like the birds were chirping. It was like 50 degrees, 55 degrees, and all I could think about was like it felt like turkeys, like a turkey's gonna gobble, and I was deer hunting, man. So it was like,
yeah,
I can feel it. I'm excited, dude. And after last year I had a really successful, awesome turkey season. I got to travel and stuff, and go to Kentucky. And after that, and learning what I learned and knowing to take that and do it a little different this year, I'm so pumped, dude. I'm so pumped for what this year's gonna bring. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, last year was fun and successful, and I think those kind of go hand in hand sometimes. But there's a lot to be excited about this year. I think we learned a lot. I think we talked about strategies and we put them into action, and we succeeded, man. You got one down in Kentucky, and then we did our Southern Ohio trip, which was tough, but we did manage to come out with a bird. There's a lot to learn from that. Turkey hunting is just fun.
It's so
getting
fun,
out,
man.
running around. You're not really suffering, in a tree stand when it's 22 degrees.
Exactly, yeah.
It's fun.
Excuse me.
It's fun. But there's
yeah, for you guys, go ahead.
It's a lot to be excited about for this year.
Yeah, for you guys who didn't, tune in to us last year or watch any of the YouTube videos, all my turkey hunts, go watch the Roosted series. This year it'll be season 2. Last year was season 1, obviously. 1 comes before 2. But go check those out, because I was really proud of those videos and how they came out. And like John said, we had a blast doing them. But Kentucky always opens a week before Ohio. So I took a whole week off, which gave me that Saturday and Sunday, and then that week in between to hunt Kentucky, and then the next Saturday there, which, you get the weekend off, doesn't count towards your time off, Ohio opens. So I drove up to Ohio and hunted with John and Bryce. Bryce isn't with us today. He's MIA. But yeah, so that trip to Kentucky was so fun to me, man. It was just like everything. I don't know. You watch all these shows and these guys turkey hunting, and it's so different than hunting your own private land when you're out on public land, for one thing. And hunting down in the Wayne in Southern Ohio, I've done that for years. I love it. But getting to a new state and it's just like a new slate, and you feel like an adventurer almost or whatever on a giant piece of property. And I had such a great experience. It took me 5 days, I think, to kill a bird. So I had to work for it, which was kind of, in hindsight, fun, and I learned a lot, right? I feel like, what if I would have killed a bird opening morning, and then was like, I'm going to go home, save my PTO, and probably wouldn't have learned as much, right? So it kind of worked out in my favor, I think. And then deer hunting the same property. I feel like me and John are planning on going to Kentucky for opening weekend. And I feel like we're pretty set up if we go to the place where I hunted last year. I think we can do pretty well based on, all the information I've learned. There was just so many birds down there. I don't want to sell it to anybody, but it was just...
Don't do that, because you sold Southern Ohio and it was a dud.
That's true. That's true. Well, you did kill. It was what was it? We just had to find them, man.
Yeah. I think we employed some new tactics because we were teamed up versus running solo.
Yeah.
And it was good. It worked.
Yeah.
out.
Well, that was so that's where I was going with this. Was I hunted Kentucky, killed a bird on Thursday, drove up to Ohio Friday, and met with you guys, and then we hunted Saturday, Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did that work? We hunted Saturday. Saturday was terrible.
Yeah.
And you can only hunt till noon. And then, we didn't hear a bird. It was raining or something. And what happened was all the places that used to be good were, freshly burned. We're sitting there in the morning, and it's getting light out. I'm like, this doesn't look anything like I remember it.
Looks
the
like
last
a parking
few
lot.
years. Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of stuff changed for us, but we struggled to find birds that first day. And we started looking at Onyx, got on maps and finding some other spots, and drove around a little bit in the afternoon, see where trucks were parked and stuff like that. Or mid-morning, or I can't remember what we did, but what did we do? Didn't we move spots mid-morning on Saturday?
So, yeah, we showed up to a spot. So we roosted a bird the night prior. And we went, and it was raining.
Mm-hmm.
And we drove into the spot, and we pulled into the parking lot, and there were 4 other trucks.
Yes.
At 3:30 in the morning. What is going? I was like a parking lot party. We pulled up, and all these headlights are on, and these guys are out in their ponchos drinking their coffee. And we're like, okay,
yeah. And let me just say this: they were kind of dicks, man. Let me just say this, guys.
Yeah.
It is public land. We're all just trying to have fun, man. No one's trying to steal your fucking bird or whatever. Just be nice to people. We pulled up, and I literally was like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And this guy's like, "It's all full. It's all full. I don't know what you want to do." And I'm like, "Okay, man. Sure. I probably wasn't gonna stay. There's 15 people back here, anyways. But just wanted to say hi. Whatever. We'll turn around and leave. Just be nice, man. I don't know. It's just a turkey, dude. But anyways, yeah, go on. So we moved.
Yeah. And we moved to a new spot, and just from your prior history there was pretty good. But, we were kind of on our backup of the backup plan, and we all kind of set off in the dark while it was raining. Then the rain let up, and it got light, and we're like, oh my gosh, they burned this. It's like a parking lot, and we had nothing to go off of. So we ended up scrapping that Saturday morning and scouted the rest of the day, and put together a plan for the following day.
Well, we ran into a guy from another state, and he kind of gave us a lead.
Yeah, the New York guy, right?
Yeah, we were like,
New
all
York.
right. So he gave us a lead, and we ended up me, John, and Bryce splitting up the next morning, and we played, chasing that bird around for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It was.
We ended up getting him. Yeah.
One of them at least, but there was a ton of birds in that spot. So just finding where the birds were was the hard part. Once you were there, it was and it was pretty obvious when we were in the area. We're like, wow, look at all these scratchings, look at all this turkey sign, which we weren't seeing anywhere else we were at.
So we were struggling, and it was hard. It was impossible. It felt like a impossible task Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday, we finally got into the sign, and we're like, okay, this is how this game is played. If there's no sign, keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going, man. And then we ran into sign, and then all of a sudden there are birds everywhere. So putting miles in, finding where they're at.
If you're in a place, if you're hunting where they're in pockets like that, and that's what it seemed like in Southern Ohio, that they were like, there was 10 birds in that valley, 15 birds in that valley, and there were no birds anywhere else we went. And we covered some ground, and we were split up. Bryce was walking all across the freaking countryside. I don't know where he went. He didn't hear crap, the first day. Where in Kentucky, like, I mean, it was just like turkeys everywhere, tracks everywhere. Like anywhere you went, there was tracks. So really, I think it would have made more sense for me to like just set up on a spot and wait, because there were like so many turkeys out there. But in the gobbling in the morning, dude, it was just every morning, just you were like, oh my God, which way's the easiest one to get to where I don't have to run down a freaking mountain, But that was the hard part, John, and that's the thing I learned last year in Kentucky. So me and John are hopefully going to Kentucky opening weekend. Are you taking that Monday off? Are we going to hunt Monday morning?
Yeah.
Me too.
Weekend and a weekday.
Drive down Friday afternoon. Maybe you could sneak out of work early Friday, drive down Friday afternoon, hunt Saturday, Sunday, Monday, maybe Tuesday morning if you can get Tuesday off.
Yeah,
we'll see. But that was the thing, dude, was the hills. So for one, it is tough walking around, and you can hunt all day in Kentucky starting right off the bat. So, you're down there for 3 days. We're in the woods from dark to dark. We're not, there's no driving to Walmart midday, or you're just wasting time. So carrying the food in with you, carrying water in with you is important, but kind of being in a little bit of shape where you can kind of, truck it all day long out in the woods was very hard for me, because I was not, these are flat, you hunt where I hunt, it's flat up here, dude. I'm not used to walking hills like that. And even in Southern Ohio, they're different. Like in Kentucky, they were just so steep, dude. And your ankles, like, walking side hilling and stuff, like trying to get around birds that were gobbling. You didn't want to walk on top of the ridge. Like my ankles were just like killing me from not having the right boots, right? Okay. So I made sure I got some Solomons that have like really good ankle support that I kind of hunted with during deer season, and I like them a lot. So I'll probably wear those. They got a really stiff sole too for like climbing up hills and stuff. So I'll probably wear those for turkey season as opposed to the like Irish setter. I forget what they're called. I got these Irish setters that are just like kind of waterproof, really flimsy kind of boots. That's what I wore last year. My feet, the bottoms of my feet were killing me. My ankles were killing me. They were not very good. And like by day 3, dude, I was like, I'd get to the top of a hill and I'd be like, I'm not leaving this ridge top all day. I would just walk back and forth on the ridge top trying to call to birds, so having the right boots, I think, is going to be very important. And, I've been hitting the treadmill and walking and taking jogs on my lunch break, trying to get in a little better shape, not like we're going on an elk hunt or anything, but still,
you don't want to suffer, because suffering isn't fun.
Exactly.
And the last thing you want to be worried about is, you struggling physically. You want to be focused on running these birds down, not, huffing and puffing and being tired at 1:00 in the afternoon, and you're like, I just kind of want to call it. No.
Yeah. And there was a few times where honestly, I think I missed out on killing a bird because I was out of shape and I was like out of breath. Because like there was one time specifically, I walked in this bottom. It was like a little hideaway way to get in this public land. I parked, walk in, and I'm down in this big bottom, and I hear a bird gobbling, just hammering off way at the top of the ridge. And this is like, 300-400 yards from me, straight up. So my thought was, like, what I kept running into while I was there was these birds would gobble their heads off for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then they'd just disappear, because what I thought was happening, and I still think was happening, was they would call in a hen. A hen would show up and he'd stop gobbling, right? There were hens everywhere, dude. I was kicking them up everywhere. They're in the mornings, they're like all over the place. So I think there was a ton of receptive hens at that point. So they would gobble their heads off, and you'd have about 10 minutes, and then they'd just disappear. So every time you heard a bird, it was like, dude, I got to find a way to get set up on this bird as fast as possible and be the first hen to him. And also in a spot where I could feel like I could call him to me, but I'm also hidden, you know. So anyways, this bird starts hammering, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to side hill it about 150 yards down and then cut up the hill so I'm not coming up right next to him, and then try and call him down the ridge to me. Dude, I like quarter of the way up that hill, I'm like taking a break, and I'd hear him gobble. I'm like, all right, he's still gobbling. Let me go. And I'd like, keep going up the hill. And like, dude, it just took me forever to get up the hill because I just, if you were Cam Haynes, dude, he would have been up that hill in 3 minutes calling to that bird.
Those types of guys out there.
Yeah, dude. So just getting in a little better shape may help us with that. And there was also like by the end of the week, it was like making decisions for me where I was like, I heard a bird, but fuck that. I'm not walking over there. Like, there's got to be one closer, So, like, if you're in a little better shape, you might start hoofing it that way to get on that bird. And being able to cover ground all day too, on public land. If it's not happening where you're at, dude, just keep moving, and being able to do that for 3 days, 4 days straight is a tough thing to do. It's not sitting in a deer stand for 3 to 4 days, 5 days, it's moving around a lot, but that's why it's fun, right? So having the right boots, getting in a little better shape. But the other thing that was super tough was pinpointing where the birds were coming from. And maybe my hearing is terrible from years of just shooting guns without freaking hearing protection. But, dude, I could not, like, these birds were gobbling like crazy, and you just couldn't figure out where they were. Like, it was just like, just the echoes coming off the hills, and there's so many benches, right? So, like, these hills are steep, where, like, in southern Ohio, I feel like there's, like, it's like a hill. It goes up and it comes down. In Kentucky, it like goes up, levels off, goes up, levels off, goes up, levels off. And that's why they're a lot steeper too, because they end up like collapsing, and then they create like a bench and it collapses or whatever. So these birds will like strut on these benches. And if you're looking at a hill that's a half a mile, quarter mile high, and there's 3 or 4 benches on that hill, and he's gobbling out into that valley, it's like, dude, I don't know where he's at, and trying to get within 100 yards of him and call him up to another bench, that might work. But a lot of based on like where you're entering, a lot of times you would find yourself below the birds, and calling a bird downhill is really difficult. So that would be one thing I would change is in the mornings. That's another thing of being tired after 5 days. Like, dude, the last 3 days I was there, I wasn't even pulling into the parking lot until it was like almost light out, So I wouldn't, I'd be walking in and hear birds gobbling as opposed to like being way up high as it's getting light out. So that would be something I definitely want to change, and make sure we're getting up really early and we're in the spot you want to be when it's, while it's dark, so that you're in a position to make a move on those birds. But even then, man, like roosting birds was really hard, because I feel like here in this flat ground in the evening, you hear a bird gobble, like you're like, oh, there he is. I know. He's probably 100 yards, 150 yards. Like there, I would hear birds gobble, and I just could not tell where they were, because you're looking at a hill going down, and then you're looking at like a point that comes up here and a point that comes up here. He could be anywhere in that 50-acre valley, and his gobbles are just bouncing. He could be right down below you, and he's gobbling out, and it's bouncing back at you, which just made it really, really difficult. And what I tried doing, and I felt like I got a little better idea based on like triangulating it. So like in the evenings when I was trying to put a bird to bed, there were a couple times where I'm walking a ridge and I would hear a bird gobble, and I'd be like, okay, I think that bird gobbled right here, and I'd take a mental note of that. And then I'd walk 250, 300 yards down the ridge, and I'd listen again. And I would keep, that tree or that part of the ridge that I thought that bird was on, and I'd hear him gobble again, and it was like totally different. But I would know it was the same bird, but it was like, okay, so it's just, yeah, like I said, the echoing and the refracting or whatever you want to call it of the gobbles bouncing off of stuff, and it's just so much different. And I thought it was like, I was like, dang, this is crazy. Like I knew it made it a little different hunting in Southern Ohio, but down there it was definitely a factor in my mind, at least. It was nice when I felt like when you were like on the same ridge as a bird, it was a little easier to figure them out or pinpoint where they were. And that's why having Onyx too, and making sure you have your maps downloaded so that you can access them when we're out of, service and everything.
Offline.
Yeah, is super important, because while that bird's gobbling, man, I was pulling up Onyx and I'm like, man, it sounds like he's over here, but like if I was a turkey, I walked through there, this area was open and this is like a point. So maybe he's on this point and he just sounds like he's over here, and being able to like make those adjustments and see, the whole picture a lot better, I guess, while you're down there. Cause a lot of that stuff, like, you've never been there. So you're hearing a bird gobble and you're like, I don't even know what it looks like over there. I'll have a lot better idea now, but making sure you have those maps. And that's tough. It's a big thing about going out of state. It definitely, did you look into it yet? How much more does that cost for Onyx?
Yeah, I've yet to really start diving in. I know, it's still kind of early, and I know as soon as I start downloading maps and grabbing my Tupperware of turkey gear and start yanking, I'm going to get so excited.
I know.
And I'm like, it's too early. I'm trying to hold off these emotions, but I'm close. I'm about to start cracking it open and getting.
But I know it sucks because it's expensive to add other states and stuff. And did you notice that Onyx started, like the subscription I have, I can't see the landowner information anymore. Do you notice that?
No.
Pull yours up. Can you see?
I'll pull it up now. Yeah.
It doesn't show me. It tells me I have to upgrade.
Onyx. Wow.
Yeah.
Upgrade to Elite today.
Does it do the same for you?
It's making me want to do it. Let's see.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not logged in on the right account or something. It's got all my pins. Like, I can see the property lines. It just won't tell me, like, the address. Maybe somebody...
No, mine's showing it.
Really? Maybe somebody out there can tell me what I'm doing wrong, then.
Maybe delete it and re-upload it.
Yeah, I'll try that, maybe. Anyways, I thought Onyx was trying to be tricky or something. Get more money, I guess. Maybe I'm just using it wrong. But
yeah, no. In this next couple of weeks, I'll start I'll download Kentucky and start doing some online research. And then next couple of weeks, I think we're going to team up and we're going to do some shooting.
Yeah.
Dial in our guns and be sharpshooters out there.
That's what. So I kind of want, before we get off here, I want to kind of talk a little bit about some e-scouting, and you brought that up. But I want to say this too. Last year I switched to a 410. All right.
Yeah.
You guys, I love it. It's amazing. I got the SA Mossberg or whatever. It's a semi-auto 410, and that's so Foxtrot, I think, is the name of the ammo company I was buying 410 shells from. They're custom. They are expensive, so it kind of was a little expensive getting the thing shooting right, and I went through probably 8 shells to kind of pattern it. But that first bird I killed in Kentucky was 40 yards with a 410. And
Wow.
I rolled him, dude. He didn't even flop nothing.
Wow.
Rolled him. So having a 410, and maybe a lot of you guys who don't film yourself don't appreciate this as much. Because if you're just carrying a shotgun around the woods, 12 gauge is great. If I wasn't filming myself, I'd want a 12 gauge too. But carrying a camera on a tripod and a GoPro and batteries and all this other bull crap trying to film stuff, I love filming. I love the whole process and everything. But man, it's just adds a lot of weight, dude. And being able to cut weight in certain spots and not really lose, your range, with your gun, and not really lose your range or your performance, like being able to kill a bird at 40 yards with a gun that weighs, half as much,
significantly less,
is pretty cool, man. So I'm a believer in the 410 thing. I know when I started hearing that becoming a thing, 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, it was laughable to me. I was like, what do you shoot them at? What do you shoot them at 10 yards? But the technology has just come so far. I'd use the Foxtrot ammo and give the guys a call if you're interested in shooting a 410 or getting into that space. They got some really cheap 410s, like single shot, break action. There's a couple of them out there that are made for turkey hunting that are pretty cool. I just called Foxtrot and said, hey, this is my gun, this is my choke. What do you recommend? And, they got specific loads for all kinds of things. You could dive into it just like you're diving into arrow building and stuff, man. It gets pretty wild with the choke diameters and the size of the BBs and mixed loads. Are they 10s and 9s and 8s? And I forget what they call them all. But, yeah, so just give them a call or whoever, I'm not sponsored by them or anything, or whatever ammo company you're going with, because a lot of times the 410 turkey loads tend to be custom made. There's not really a lot of, I don't think Winchester makes a mass produces 410 turkey loads. So you got to kind of look for them to get some really high performing ones at least, and just call and ask them, tell them what your setup is. And most of the time they'll give you their recommendation. But, yeah, so pretty excited about that.
Heck yeah.
I'm pretty excited to use it again. It's been sitting over there in the closet for 6-8 months, but yeah, when it comes to scouting though, you talked about, this is the time looking at some maps and everything. As a turkey hunter, John, what are you looking for? I've talked about this a lot. I got a couple videos on YouTube that's actually my highest performing video over the last month was e-scouting for turkeys 101. So go check that out if you want to see a visual to go along with whatever we're talking about right now. But what are you looking for on a map? If you're going to a new place you never hunted before, and you're going to show up in the morning, what's the ideal situation for you, John?
Well, I definitely want to watch your scouting video again, because I am I'll self-proclaim that I am not the best turkey hunter out there, but I'm getting better. I'm growing. I think I'm much more experienced here because I'm used to my own home state, but it's I'm used to swamps and flatland and water. So going to Kentucky, it's all going to be brand new. But looking for, looking for different terrains. So, because in Southern Ohio, I think this was a takeaway for me. If it's wide open, everything, I'm not liking it as much. When we started to see sign, you were seeing different vegetation types. Yes. Along with your topography. Yes. So, because the birds got to eat something, they're not just digging through leaves the whole time. Trying to figure out little features that stick out. Green areas. thicker areas, and then transitions too, from something to another, whether it's, um, maybe a little wetland stretch or a stream, um, keying in on pieces like that.
Yes, diversity, I think is what you're saying.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Diversity, man. That's It's just like deer. The more things that you can put in a small area, the more condensed those birds are going to be, right? The more birds that area can hold, the less far they have to travel to find what they need. Finding a place with, like you said, water, cover, roosting trees, that's a big one. A lot of these properties I hunt, like, what's the one everybody talks about down in like southeastern Ohio? That's like just all, it looks like the Texas prairie. It's like 2,000 acres of just brush.
Is it like the AEP property?
No, it's a public, like, it's like a public, like, state lands. What is that place called? Anyways, I'll remember it as soon as we stop recording this. But that piece of property is literally just like a solid, like, Texas prairie. It's got open places. It's got, it's thick and gnarly. The thing that is missing, or the thing that is like the limiting factor, is like roost trees, because there's not a ton of. It used to be strip mined areas. People probably know exactly where I'm talking about. So there's not a lot of mature growth trees or forests that birds can roost on. So, finding that limiting factor on a property, if you're on a property like that, or finding, those places that have all those different types of vegetations, places for them to strut, food, acorns, they'll eat stuff from last year. They'll eat, as, like we were talking earlier, a burn. A burn is good if it's like a part of all this other stuff, right? But if, you're in an area that's just all been burned and there's nothing really around for a long ways, you're probably not going to see a lot of turkey. It might be good in the next few years, or it might be good at certain points throughout the day if they're traveling through there. But, that's what most of the time I'm looking for. I'm looking for topography. I'm looking for points where they're probably going to be roosted. And I'm using, like, what I've learned on, because turkeys are, they're hard to kill, but they're not smart, in my opinion. They got a computer brain that's just like, do this because of this input, so they're not really thinking out things. So turkeys do the same thing that they do in Ashtabula, that they do in Southern Ohio, that they do in Kentucky, that they do in Georgia. They're all doing the same thing. So using what you've seen in Ashtabula, maybe it's a little more extreme because we're in some hills or some topography, or using what you've seen in Ohio. Like, so where were those? Go ahead.
To piggyback off what you're saying, so it's habitat that they want to be in. So older, mature trees to roost in, habitat diversity. But the other thing I think I'm looking for is, and I know we'll probably cover this more in depth when we dive into a more strategic only podcast, but places where I can hide. How can I hide myself? If it's in a burn, it's tree trunks. That's it.
It's a little difficult.
You're hanging out there, not really the place I want to be, because I'm going to get picked off, or they're not going to like it, or
and you get especially calling a bird in, right? That's a huge thing. If you can see 300 yards, it's really hard to call a bird in across an open cornfield, a cut cornfield. Like, he sees everything. Like, where's the hen? Why isn't she coming here? She's supposed to come to me. And I talk about that all the time. Turkey hunting and calling and putting yourself in those kind of spots where that bird has to come look for you to get eyes on you. He's got to duck and dive through some thick stuff or some brush. Not something so thick he doesn't want to come into it, but something where, and it's kind of easy to find that most of the time during the spring. Everything's greening up.
But let me throw this at you. How are you going to do it e-scouting? what are you looking for? Because I'm going to Kentucky for the very first time. I guess I'm going to ask that. I want to find these things, these features. How am I going to do that? I think my first step would be aerials, right? Yep. And looking for those bigger, more mature trees is kind of the first step.
That's like punctuated by like openings, I think, because you can find a lot of that big mature forest, right? And when we go down to Kentucky, you'll see there's whole areas that are just wide open because it's all mature forest and it's not managed. They don't come in and timber it. So what happens is those trees get big, yep. They drown out the canopy, or the canopy drowns out the forest floor. It doesn't get any sunlight. So yep. There's like no undergrowth, and like there's whole giant areas. Like there's a lot of that property that is like that, right? It's got the roosting trees. It's got the place for them to roost. But it's wide open and it's hard to call birds in. They hang out there, they spend time there, they strut. Those are really good strutting areas, but it's hard to call a bird in there. So finding those mature roost trees that have the right topography, maybe they're on a point or a ridge somewhere where a bird wants to roost, because you're not going to see them roosting down in the bottoms too often. They're going to be like on the side of a hill or on a point or something like that. That's like cut. Maybe a swamp cuts through there, which is going to let light in and create that feathering effect, that thicker stuff along the edge of it. Or maybe a power line comes through. It's going to do the same thing, or finding, an old blowdown or a place that was clear cut. And a lot of times that's easy to see on, maps, and kind of get, find that thicker stuff because you want the mature trees, but if you cut a power line through a mature forest, you're essentially letting sunlight in from the sides too. So you're going to have that thicker growth out from that power line too, depending on how long that's been there or whatever. So finding stuff like that, and just finding literally my favorite thing is just you look at a map and you find the most complicated looking spot that just got a ton of stuff. Like that's it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
look for the messiest section of the map.
Yep. And turkey hunting, to me, I don't give a rat's butt about access. Like deer hunting, access is always in the back of my mind. As much as everyone's like, oh, we go 3 miles back. Like, okay, but like, have you thought about how you're getting a deer out if you're by yourself, deer hunting? Like thinking about how you're going to get a deer out of the woods and how far back you're going to go and all this stuff is definitely in the back of my mind when I'm deer hunting. But turkey hunting, it's like, I don't care if I'm 5 miles, if I got to walk 3 miles back there, like carrying a bird out's no problem. So, if we got to put a boat in the water, if you find a spot that you're like, dude, this is it, we should try this. Like, let's take a kayak, man. Let's take a canoe down there or something,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think those are probably the best things to look for. I don't know if that was, like I said, watch that video, or if, any of the listeners.
It's a really good video. Yeah.
It kind of demonstrates like visually what we're talking about. But that, and then like the biggest thing is, like I said, like those birds we killed in Southern Ohio. That bird we killed in Southern Ohio, like where were they roosted in the morning? Do you remember what that situation looked like? Were they roosted up on a ridge, or how did that look?
Yeah, so it was a ridge system, and they were out on they were 3/4 of the way out off a finger.
Well, there you go. That sounds exactly like where a turkey would be.
It sounds exactly, but when you look at the map, there were 1,000 fingers.
Yeah.
So it really needed us to walk that ridge and be like, oh, whoa, there's scratchings everywhere, there's droppings, there's feathers.
Yep.
This is the finger. So really, I don't think I could have looked at the map and said they're going to be here. I think for that particular Southern Ohio trip, it took us
moving it. Yes. Well, I'll say this, we did get a little insight, but there was a reason you were standing there in the morning. right? I don't remember exactly what transpired on looking at the maps and why we all went to the spots that we went to. But there was a reason you went to that spot in the morning from us looking at maps. I can't remember exactly what it was.
It was the highest knob in the whole system.
Yeah, and maybe that's what we want to do. Maybe get to that knob and we can hear it. But, looking back at that situation, that bird was 3/4 of the way out on a point. That there was a lot of mature woods intermingled in there, but that valley had a lot of thick kind of parts to it, right? And, we could see a long ways, but there was some thick stuff down along the edge of that, the side of that hill, and down in there was a big creek bottom that was pretty thick too. So you got water, you got thicker stuff, you got open strutting areas, you got mature trees. Yeah, and like you said, a lot of times you just got to get down there and find them. Everything can look good on a map. The e-scouting is definitely not the thing, but that's why turkey hunting is kind of cool, because you can get away with it, right? They kind of just tell you where they're at in the morning. So as long as you're in an area where turkeys may be, that's, the first step, and then fine tune it when you get there. So I think that's our plan.
Strategies together, we find a couple of ridges we want to go check out in Kentucky, sit on them, listen. If we hear some gobbles, break out that map so it's almost e-scouting while we're there.
Mm-hmm.
Where to come from. I know you said it was difficult, but that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and get out there, listen, hear a gobble, and then pull out my phone and be like, where is he? And why, try and figure it out. And then, I don't know, I think it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be fun and exciting, but getting to him, we'll see how that goes.
So, like the first day I was there, I'll say this. It seemed like there was a lot of birds like grouped up gobbling together. Like when I roosted the birds in the evening, there was like 4 or 5 of them together. And in the morning, I heard like a couple different groups that sounded like several birds together. As the week went on, I started noticing that it was like one bird gobbling. So I don't know if the hunter's pressure kind of broke them up, or it was like at that point, like the mating season really got underway and birds started like traveling a lot more, because what would happen throughout the day is I would hear birds gobbling, and man, they just were moving, dude. It was so like, that's the thing. They weren't gobbling in one spot. A couple times they were, but like when I was talking about trying to get on them and make it happen, like I felt like they were always just, every time I heard a bird, it was like he was there, then he was there, then he was there, then he was there, then he was gone. And it was like you could never catch up to them. So they just seemed like they were cruising like freaking bucks in November. Like, so keeping that in mind too. I don't know where I was going with that point, but
trying to figure out how to get on him,
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we'll refine our thought process as we get closer. I know this is just kind of our intro to turkey this year.
I'm excited, man. I'm ready. I got the calls. I just bought some new calls, some new, I don't know what I got, Woodhaven diaphragms this year, so we'll see how those work out. I'm going to start playing with them, get one out and throw it in the truck.
Yeah, it is the time of year to put a little travel Listerine in your cup holder with all your calls.
Practice on the way to work.
Yeah.
Annoy the shit out of your wife or girlfriend.
Oh yeah. Yep. I got to keep working on my owl hooter.
Yeah. Did you get one?
Yeah.
Do you have an owl hooter? Which one did you get?
The one from the Ohio Deer and Turkey.
Oh yeah. I remember. Yeah, you were getting better at it. Yeah, you were getting better at it there.
And then we were goofing off in Ashtabula, and we were at the truck, and I hit it because you didn't believe I could do it, and a gobbler sounded off in the middle of the day.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that now. That's so funny, dude. Yeah, that was awesome. I wish we would have connected on that bird.
We'll get him this year. He'll be 8 years old this year. No, I'm kidding.
No, so what's the goal, John? You gonna kill 2 birds? So when you buy a tag in Kentucky, I believe I don't remember if I had to buy the second tag or I think you buy one, you just pay for it, and you get 2 birds with your tag. I think. I could be wrong.
So
we'll have to double check.
I think in Kentucky, I'm going to have low standards. I think if it's a legal bird, I am taking him and bringing him back home. I think the goal, the thought process is we'll go out of state for the early season, hopefully have success there. But I know I definitely want to connect on a hometown bird this year.
It's been a few years since you killed one up there.
Maybe 2 years, but we've been doing the Southern Ohio trip, and I got one last year there, and I'm tagged out in Ohio.
Yep.
Wow. No.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. Only one bird in Ohio now, so yeah. I mean, I'll probably still hunt Southern Ohio depending on how it goes, but I know last year, my home farm that I hunt all the time had a lot of jakes running around. The one bird I killed was a jake, so
yeah,
I got a feeling there's going to be some pretty good 2-year-olds or a bunch of 2-year-olds running around out there, so it may be a pretty good spot to hunt. But I don't know. I'd be really interested in going back down, depending on how our trip works out, and going back to that place where you killed your bird in Southern Ohio last year, because that was a wild hunt, man. And if you guys haven't watched that video, go watch it. I can't remember what episode it was, but there was just so many birds in there. So many birds.
It was nothing in despair to just mayhem,
Maybe that's why it seems so crazy, because we were so used to hearing nothing. But
another hunter, tagging one, and just, felt like the BBs flew by our heads, but it didn't. But it was just mayhem. We're like, what's going on?
Yeah,
we found the sign. We're in it, man.
Yeah, it's cool. But all right, well, I mean, I guess we can end here. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about?
No, I think it's a good intro and kind of gets the juices flowing for what's to come.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. So, yeah, let's get together end of February. We'll do some shed hunting out at your place. We'll shoot some guns. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. We're excited. We're excited for turkey hunting. Hopefully you guys are excited too. Hopefully you guys learned something. We will see you. Hold on. Hopefully you guys learned something, and catch us next time. We're probably gonna I don't know, what are we gonna talk about next time? Maybe some turkey tactics when we get closer to our trip and everything. We want to talk about our bow setups here coming up. Me and John are both going to be
revamping.
Revamping, getting new arrows and stuff, maybe some new broadheads. Want to talk about our stand setups, our packs, what we carry into the woods. And, we might have a YouTube video to go along with that.
I think we're going to do a little gear, going through the old stuff, refining for the next year.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you guys on the next one.